ET. And this was a again, between 5 feet, 5.5 feet tall. They had him in a blue, like a jumpsuit.
So they're obviously recording this.
Well, this what I was saying is that it was in addition to this one particular interview that they had index cards with notes being taken of interviews, a series of interviews with this being, and had notes that were being taken. And so all I've said is that in light of the fact that they're clearly doing interviews of this being at S4, it's completely unimaginable that they wouldn't have recorded them, right, and filmed some of these. Now, the particular, there's a couple of different videos that have been running around of people saying, here's a live interview of these. I have not yet confirmed that those are real, but I do know from my interview of Albert that I find him to be extraordinarily credible. He was on his deathbed, literally. He called me and wanted to convey this information to me before he died. And he described this is a tall, bald, large head, with large eyes, the classic tall gray.
Gray.
So we know that those are two firsthand accounts that I have. And I say, and I've interviewed many people as legal counsel for the Project for Extraordinary Experience Research, have given detailed descriptions. For example, one of the other people, Melinda Leslie, who had
I know her. She's been on the show. Yeah.
Encounter with one of the what they call insectoids. The mantis people. Were like almost 7 feet tall, very, very tall, very, very skinny, very thin, and that they remind people almost of like a praying mantis. That this is a third type. And then there are, of course, myriad stories from very credible people about the little tiny, short, 3.5 feet tall grays.
Yeah.
That they look just like the tall grays.
Terry Lovelace.
Same eyes, etc. So that you have the short grays, the tall grays, you have the reptilians, and you have the mantis people. Now, and then there's this whole array of stories, Billy Meyer being one of the major promoters of these, but there's lots of other people who've given these accounts of encountering beings that look just like us. And they consistently report these beings having come from the Pleiades, the constellation of the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades. They come from one of the star systems there. And all I'm saying is that one is so, if you can imagine, it's harder to believe.
Yeah, isn't it?
Others,
right?
Because that means that these are like humans. These are like human beings. They look just exactly like us, except that they have larger earlobes apparently and other things. But this is a fifth particular species, which is not a non-human species. But these others are non-human. So that we have detailed accounts of these, and that what we're doing at the New Paradigm Institute is investigating all of this, trying to figure out, how to establish the information so that regular people who are just coming into contact with this whole field can have credible information and knowledge about these things. That's one of the other areas of the many, like we have 8 different major areas that the New Paradigm Institute is working on. We're working on legislation. We've been deeply involved in working with the legislation that's been passed by the United States Senate and more recently by the House, a smaller version of it. We're working on having a second iteration of the Schumer-Rounds bill drafted in the United States Senate. We're working on the legislation now to have much muscled up witness protection, UAP witness protection legislation.
Right.
We're also we'll be representing individual whistleblowers to bring them forward to testify in front of Congress and other places. And we're working on trying to design an entire new paradigm to try to integrate the reality of this information into our human worldviews, so that we can help the institutions of our world, religious institutions, political institutions, economic institutions, social, cultural institutions, integrate this kind of extraordinary new reality
Right.
But so we've set up an entire institute to do this in Washington, D.C. We're virtually the only civilian or non-government group inside the federal enclave, right on Capitol Hill. Our offices are immediately next door to the United States Supreme Court and the United States Senate building that houses the Senate Intelligence Committee. So we can walk right out our door and meet with the Senate staff and the House staff. So we're
That's
deeply
nice.
engaged in
Yeah.
the process.
So that allows you that networking and that, it kind of affords you hurdle challenges and all that. And I did want to ask you, so there's somebody came out recently, and I wasn't going to ask this, but you brought up whistleblowers, and that have you? Can you answer this with just a yes or no? Do you know who Jason Sands is, and have you spoken to him?
Yeah, I shouldn't really be discussing this anymore.
Yeah. Okay. Is that something that's often
erroneously made some reference there, but it's not appropriate for us to talk about which whistleblowers we're talking to until they've come public and we've officially represented them.
Okay. Yeah, because it's something that just came out recently in a really weird way, and just kind of looking for some clarification on it because I am definitely on the side of a controlled disclosure, and I think what you're doing with with this. I mean, maybe it wasn't always going to pass the first time. Maybe we always kind of knew that, but that was never going to not be something that was going to come up again and again and again, because once it was introduced, it's introduced, and you have people like yourself backing the fight and organizing citizens all around the world. And I think it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. So with that being said, how do you think how do you think that religion ties into the phenomena, and how people, because you talk about a catastrophic disclosure, and a possible event that could occur that we have no control over and causes a catastrophic disclosure. Now, do you think religion would have a part to play in that?
No, very much so. Look, people that without being patronizing about law, the fact is that 99% of the people don't really have a clear understanding of what religion's really all about. Right. It's a whole kind of collection of mythology and fantasy and fiction and but very important dimensions of reality. But relegare, the Latin root for religion, relegare, means to relink. That's what's happened is when the intellect has evolved. Intellectus, the Latin root of which is to be able to distinguish the difference between. The evolution of the intellect in our human species has caused us to separate ourselves out from the rest of reality. That we have seen ourselves in dialectical relationship with other aspects of reality. The intellect, the ability to distinguish the difference between and to make rational connections between particular points. But the flip side of the evolution of the intellect has been this kind of onset of an extraordinary experience of alienation on the part of our sense of ourself from the rest of reality. Religion, relegare, is to relink us back to an integrated experiential encounter with all the rest of reality. And that's what the major religious institutions have not, in fact, systematically shared with the regular lay people what we really understand about our human family, the kind of capacities that we have, the abilities that we have, the access to extraordinary faculties that we have for example, telepathy, telepathic communication, psychic abilities, the teleportation. There's all kinds of, astral travel. There's all kinds of extraordinary capacities that are referred to, even in Christian traditions, as the talents. In Eastern religions, they're referred to as siddha, the ability to levitate, for example, the ability to transmute matter. There are these capacities that our human species has that have been kept secret, basically, by a lot of the major religious institutions. It's going to be extraordinarily important that they come forward and start to disclose themselves knowledge that they have about the capacities of our human family, so that we cannot feel so completely estranged from some of the faculties that are displayed by some of the extraterrestrial beings. That when extraterrestrial beings come and levitate and lift people up out of their beds and carry them up through the walls of their home into the UFO, the people are flabbergasted, and they tend to start thinking of these beings that, well, they must be some kind of spiritual beings. They must be kind of angels. There's this whole category that people have for those kind of capacities that are fundamentally separate and distinct from our human capacities. And that's just simply not true. And so that I think that the whole realm of religion, for example, the Catholic Church has issued an official statement as of November 10th of 2009, stating that in light of the discovery of more and more of these new exoplanets, it's now become clear that much earlier than had previously been anticipated, we are going to discover that there's life, intelligent life, or they said life elsewhere in the universe. And therefore, the time has arrived for us to begin a serious conversation of the profound philosophical and theological implications in questions that are posed to our human family by the discovery of life elsewhere in the universe. All this is completely true, and that this has to do with our place in the universe, how we fit into the cosmic scheme of things. And these are extraordinarily important conversations that we need to start having now, before we are kind of confronted by the existence of an extraterrestrial civilization that we're not prepared for.
Right.
And that's the process our institute is engaged in working on that.
Right. And do you think that, now a lot of people are citing that eminent domain would be the main component that keeps this thing not passable in its full capacity. People like Brandon Fugel, who own places like Skinwalker Ranch, Jacques Vallée, who owns various samples, Gary Nolan. Right. So, they're worried about where does the line in the sand, because the government would have control over it if they absolutely wanted to, and they would be able to control what the fair market value is based on that. So what are how do we navigate this and make it so that we meet halfway, if you will?
I don't think halfway is a good idea.
Okay.
I mean, that it's like saying, we've kidnapped 3 of your children. You can have one of them back. Which
right.
one that's not where we're going. On this thing,
it's got to be all or nothing.
The bottom line is this is not the access to knowledge that there exists an entire extraterrestrial civilization of sentient, highly intelligent, and highly technologically developed civilization of non-human beings, and that they're coming and going from our planet, is not a piece of information that anybody has the right to seize and claim and keep secret from everybody else, and then try to exploit it to make a personal profit for themselves. Like, what, we're going to copyright the fact that we know that there's an extraterrestrial civilization? And anybody who's going to try to utilize the information or get access to the information has to pay for that.
That's like selling stars. It means nothing.
That's right.
It means nothing.
And the bottom line is that it's true that a major source of the resistance in our real world, as the way that they deal with giving campaign contributions to people and threatening to withhold the campaign contributions, etc. The private aerospace corporations Lockheed Martin, Radiance
Mhm.
Technology, and some others who actually have gotten